you. Before diving his today's agenda, first 30 minutes a conversation with our special guest, and next 15 minutes we have audience Q&A, and we will wrap up with a casual networking session. Now, without further ado, let me introduce our incredible guest. First, to my left, Tony Hong, co-founder and CEO of Reclub. And to my right, Tito Machado, CEO of DUPR. Last but not least, Kevin Kim, CEO of DUPR. So I know many of you already know Reclub and DUPR, and also are big fans of them. But today, let's hear it straight from the founder themselves. Okay? Let's start with Tony. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and share with us what inspired you to create Reclub?
So, my name is Tony. I'm the founder and CEO of Reclub. And as far as Reclub is concerned, I'm looking at this audience right here, and I know Cindy, Jum, I know Alex, I think I know about a third of you guys here. And I met you guys all through pickleball. And that's why I built Reclub. Wow. More friends. That's why I built Reclub.
Wow. Thank you. And for you, Tito and Kevin, could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us what led you to join DUPR?
Hi everyone, I am Tito Machado. I'm the CEO of DUPR, and I'm super excited to be here in Vietnam with all of you. And it's been beautiful so far, and everyone has been amazing. I had like 4 coffees this morning, so it's so good the coffee I cannot contain myself. And yeah, I come from the technology and racket sports industry, and in 2022 I got thrown into a big event down in Arizona to go and watch a thing called pickleball. I had no idea what it was. Well, I knew it was a sport played by old people at the park. And when I got there, something truly clicked. I was like, whoa, this is the next big thing coming. And I got a call from the founder of Major League Pickleball, Steve Kuhn at the time, and told me, hey, come build the whole commercial side. We're gonna build a community. We're gonna build a rating. We have a professional league. All of these exciting investors. Kevin Durant, LeBron James are coming in. All of these great people. And we just wanted a way to be able to communicate and connect the world through a language, right? One rating globally, so we can all play pickleball, be connected, and kind of create those pathways from everywhere in the world on the same scale.
Hi everyone, I'm the COO at DUPR. I handle mostly the operations side of DUPR, so it's rare for me to be at a speaking event like this, so I'm going to try my best. I'm also wired like Tito with 4 coffees right now, so yeah, my head is full. So this coffee is different in Vietnam, but yeah, like Tito said, we're really here to grow the game, get everyone connected on the same rating system. We come from the tennis space. There's 2,000 different rating systems for tennis. Each country has their own different ratings, and for us, with pickleball just starting, obviously it's been around for a while, but starting in the 2020s, it started growing. Right? We wanted to make sure that everyone was on the same scale. So that's why we're doing a little Asia tour right now. We went to South Korea, and we went to Kuala Lumpur, and then also Vietnam. So
Vietnam is our favorite.
Wow.
They are not kidding, by the way, about being the language of the sport. You have household names like Google, like, oh, Google it, whatever. But in pickleball, it's what's your DUPR?
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, Reclub focuses on organizing a game and building community, and DUPR help players track their progress over time. So could you share a little bit more how Reclub and DUPR work together to create a complex experience for players?
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the things when we were creating the company, and we had all of these ideas, and we were trying to figure out how can we truly get adoption, right? We wanted to be an event management platform at the beginning. We wanted to build everything you can imagine, like any tech company in the world. But one of the things we realized is, there is a lot of people with amazing technology, great ideas, having an impact on the community already. So we decided, hey, we should be a utility. We should be an engine for everyone that is actually doing the work And Reclub is exactly that, right? They're the shakers and movers, the champions here in the Asian market, and one of the easiest and best partners we've been lucky enough to work with. So for us, it was a no-brainer, right? And everyone is using Reclub. We're able to get DUPR integrated. I think we have an easier access to all of you and making sure that it's not us telling you what technology to use, but the market choosing the technology and us supporting all of these technology platforms.
Wow, very inspiring. Tony, I'm curious. Was there a particular moment playing pickleball or another sport that really set you envision Reclub?
Yeah, so my family lives in Florida, and I was riding my bicycle around, and I hear this like clack, 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 like what the heck is this? It was like, you can hear it far away, and I looked at it, and I rode my bike up against the fence. And when I did it, I was just like looking at it for 2 or 3, watching all the people play. One of the guys in the court, they're like, "What are you doing out there? Come in and play." And that's when I realized, oh, this is a community sport. This is such a friendly community and so accessible to everyone. And that's when it clicked for me for Reclub. It was like this. Because that's what sports is all about bringing people together. And really, pickleball embodied that spirit. And that's when I knew, I was like, we got to pivot to pickleball because it really fits the values and the culture of the company. And that's one of the things for all the entrepreneurs here is kind of really figuring out where your people, what your culture is, what your values is, and you build a company around it. To add to what Tito was saying earlier, we could also build our rating system, but they're 2 different businesses. As entrepreneurs, we got to have a really strong core focus because if you do too many things at once, you're not going to be good at any of them. So for us, we realized, hey, our core focus was in events, managing, helping people organize activities, making sports more accessible. And then we partnered with DUPR because that's what they're really good at, is the rating systems and getting people, connecting people in the right way, as far as on the levels and stuff. And we're like, this is a natural fit for us. So as soon as I saw DUPR, as soon as I found a way to get to Tito, I was like, hi, figure it out, man, get me connected, and then we're going to connect our systems together. And it's been a blessing. It's been a beautiful marriage so far.
Tony, I wanted to, highlight for entrepreneurs here the word that you said. Focus. When you think about moments in time and you're like, I wish I could go back and I could know what I know now. We all go through that in life, right? Focus is one of those things that I wish I could go back, and a lot of time, money and ideas that I had, I wish I knew, hey, you know what? Go back, focus on what you do, focus on the rating. And that we should be able to do that. You should be able to do that in every single one of your business. Make sure that you have a clear ethos. What are you gonna do? And keep grinding, because the only way to get somewhere is ethos and the grind.
Yeah, 2 years ago, Tito recruited me over to DUPR, and he pitched me. He told me the vision was to build deep and not wide, go 100% on the rating system, and then partner with API partners such as Reclub and others like Pickleball.com and so on, Podplay. And to me, that really resonated with me. And now we're partnered with over 100 plus API partners globally. And each one of those API partners, they serve a different purpose for different audiences, right? So it's doing really well.
This story led me to this is a very good example into next question. How is DUPR changing the way people play, organize, or connect to pickleball?
Yeah, so one of the things that happened in the US with pickleball is it was like a massive wave. Just think about we went from like a couple million players to like now I think it's 48 million players in the US. It's the most practiced sport by recreational players in the United States right now, and the fastest growing sport, and so on, right? So one of the big things, and again, this also comes from any business that you ask, you're trying to solve something in the community, right? Wherever your audience is, you're trying to solve problems and make their life easier, right? So for us, we saw the saturation, we saw the sandbagging, we saw that people were showing up at the park, and hey, at the beginning, showing up at the park at 5 p.m. was the right thing to do because everyone wanted to play with everyone. 6 months later, the top players only wanted to play with the top players. And then we're starting to really break that beautiful community because there was so much conflict, so much like, hey, I want to have the courts, there was an organization. But for us, I know people think of DUPR as the competitive rating, but it wasn't about that, right? It's about finding level-based play. We need to protect our sport, right? And we need to make sure that people are having meaningful experiences, right? If you're having horrible matches, not fun, playing with the wrong people, and then you don't want to play pickleball anymore, right? For us, it's important to get people into the platform, right? Monthly active users, right? Those are our KPIs and subscriptions and sponsorship, of course. But at the end of the day, we need to nourish what our consumer is doing. We need to grow the sport, and that's by solving and making sure that people have fun, right? The other big thing is, we're genderless, we're ageless, we are global, right? So a 4.0 in Vietnam at some point is going to be the same thing as a 4.0 in the United States, right? It's language, right? So how can we connect the global ecosystem through this scale?
Okay, could you also share more how is DUPR more unique than just a single rating system, and why should players use DUPR to evaluate their level?
Yeah. Too many coffees, Kevin? Yeah, so it's one of the words that I'm almost repetitive with is community, right? Again, that the rating system, it's not about the number, it's not about that, it's about finding play, it's about utility, it's about pushing, it's about helping clubs formulate the right programming, it's about nourishing the whole ecosystem. That's why, as I said, right, 100 APIs, 158 countries, 1.2 million players, events, college, right? We are not the fancy tool, but we are the necessary tool for everyone to know who they should be playing and build the pathways. The other big thing is that we're the rating of the professional tours, right? If you want to play Major League Pickleball one day, you get recruited with your DUPR. You want to play PPA, you get recruited with your DUPR. You want a sponsorship, the brands look at your DUPR. So, again, as a simple concept, we're a number for the community. We are that, the language I said before, but kind of the connective tissue.
Yeah. So, Tony, here for Tito, it's made me think, is it similar story for Reclub? Because from what I know, Reclub is limited to pickleball, is supporting many other sports too, right? I'd love to hear how Reclub has helped shape new habits around this sport community.
I'd love to tell you guys a story. Folk over there at USC, he was one of the very, very first clubs to organize socials and use a community model for pickleball. We're very thankful. I remember the very first social that we organized. I had to literally pull people that paid for their game, and they just sat there, and they were so shy to play with strangers and different people. I was so used to it as an American. You just show up at the park, well, you want to play a game? Sure. But in Vietnam, the culture was very, very different. And usually here, people would just play with their friends. I play pickleball because my friends play, that kind of stuff. So that very first meet was very difficult. And shifting the culture around how we consume and how we play sports was very difficult. I had to drag people out in the court, like, hello, X, please meet Y, and please meet Z. Play a game together. And now they're good friends, and they have their own group, and then they play together. In contrast that to today, when I go out and join a social, it's like Chris's social. Chris, where are you? Chris over there. Chris hosts like a social. He's got like 45 people coming every time. And I don't know half the people there, and the people there, they also don't know half the people there, but we speak the common language of pickleball. No matter if you're friends before or whatever kind of thing, if you know the rules of pickleball, that's a common thread amongst all humans, amongst all players. And that was a beautiful thing, because now we can connect and we can unite people together in ways that we couldn't do it before. And DUPR has been a total blessing for us, because like what Tito was saying, nobody likes to be pickled. I don't like being pickled by Alex or by Cindy here. I don't enjoy it, so I try to avoid games with them. And I see on the app, like, oh, they're there, I don't want to, But it's important to level-based play, because sports is such an emotional experience. When you hit a good shot, when you're struggling, these are all part of the sports journey. It's very emotional when you have those close games, and when you use something like DUPR to where you can get all those close games and really feel connected to the sport and the people that you're playing with. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. So.
Beautiful. Now I know, so half of people here are a community of Reclub and DUPR. Yes. So, Tony, how many years have Reclub been operating?
We've been operating for a while. It started as just a passion project for me. me, because ultimately moving to Vietnam, it was kind of lonely because, I love to play sports, but I didn't know who to play with, and you have to be invited to all these private groups and stuff. So it was kind of solving my own problem. We had a little bit of scare during COVID because we saw our numbers go up, and then 2021 came by, during COVID, everything just crashed. But 2022 came around, and we saw this energy and this enthusiasm for sports, and it just picked itself right back up. And that's when we knew, okay, this is important. People were craving sports after COVID. We were worried that COVID, people getting used to it. They're in their jammies watching Netflix, like, I don't want to get out of my jammies, I don't want to get out of the house anymore, I'm so used to it. But we saw the opposite in 2022, and our growth has been just explosive since then. And we're like, okay, there's something here. Let's put some more energy and full-time effort into it.
So, Ide, any biggest challenge you face while building a sports tech startup?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're doing anything consumer, which we are, it's really kind of like catching lightning in the bottle. I mean, like something like, can you, like for example, let's take Be Real. Be Real was like the social network. Would you ever figure out like, oh, that's going to be a success, that's going to be a viral hit? That's the hard thing about consumer. You gotta build what you believe the world should look like, and you hope the market agrees with you. There is no playbook for consumer. That's the hardest part. And not only that, doing a global platform is really difficult too, because all the cultures are different, all consumer behaviors are really different. So it's really much, there's no playbook like there is like B2B companies, and you have to be, I would say for Reclub, it's about 80% up. Making sure that we're there at the right time, the right place for the consumer. Yeah.
Are there difficulty when you build the first radio system?
I mean, every day, yeah. I mean, the reality is that everything is ups and downs when you're building any company, right? You have some highs and lows, and it's all about tenacity, right? And knowing that you have a product that's growing, and you want to execute, you want to make sure that you have adoption, then you need to add any monetization because someone is going to have to get the board paid at some point. So all of these things, right? You want to balance, right? Timing is absolutely important as well, right? Hey, we were first to market, which is great, but when do we add a subscription model? When do we charge for some things? What do we add ads into the platform? Again, we have something viral going on. We have something that is, we have 20,000 new users a week joining the platform. We're seeing that growth. Again, those things can go slower, can go faster. So we almost, we went through the pickle wars. So the two big billionaires went to war. We lost, so we had to go and raise money, raise capital last minute. We had a month to raise capital. So again, it's all about survival. One more day, one day at a time, and that's the way you have to see this, right? I mean, of course, it's great to have a spreadsheet with KPIs and goals that you're gonna hit. We all do that, right? But if anyone is running any kind of business, those numbers are a fun exercise to be able to get things together. The whole goal is to make sure that you keep growing, you keep moving forward, and you keep surviving all of the struggles. That's the key part of being a successful business.
Yeah, and back in 2022, when DUPR first started, it was just Tito and Joola, who was the previous CEO at the time. And we had no users, right? So when you first started the company, I mean, that was the goal. Now, 3 years later, we have 1 million users on the platform, right? So now, and our team has grown to 50 people now. So now we're at the point where we're scaling up, and every single person on the team, all 50 of us, have to level up our game, right? We need to start thinking differently, strategizing differently, and just executing, right? So just recently, we're going to have a lunch and learn with we're going to invite guest speakers to come and help kind of people who've been there, done that, scaling up a company. They're going to come and show us the growth, share their stories. So we're constantly looking for ways to level up our team. So I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs and startup owners here, and I encourage you guys to empower your team and invest in your team.
But at first, what did you do to change the player behavior?
That's an interesting concept because with pickleball, we had a blank canvas, right? And it's a new sport coming in. So it's, again, every single niche is going to be different. With pickleball, again, there were no federations, there was no governing bodies, there was, we were able to come in and kind of truly create the behavior that we wanted to create. We were lucky enough that we also owned or were part of the professional league, so we had the big marketing, right? We had the Tysons of the world and all of them, and then Andrew Agassi invested in us. So we had a lot of noise through the ownership group and stuff like that. So as I said, first to market is always an advantage, right? We were the first ones, the OGs, we were there. But again, as I said, now is how do you use that? How do you use that advantage to keep growing, to execute, to monetize? Those are the main things.
Yeah. Also, we build relationships with a lot of the club owners. I know a lot of many of you have clubs on DUPR, and we have account managers kind of managing clubs all throughout the world, right? So we really believe in growing the sport from the grassroots up, and that's exactly our strategy for the past 3 years, and it seems to be working.
Yeah. I mean, actually, Kevin, you make a great point. One of the things that we're extremely proud of is that you can say many things about DUPR, but you're gonna see that we're about partner. And that's absolutely critical as well, right? Like if you're supporting your peers, if you're helping them, if you're in this together, even your frenemies, right? Even the competition that is doing exactly the same product, right? This is an ecosystem people can learn from each other, work with each other. Honestly, so many times, we've been saved because our great partner, like Reclub, right? Doing this who would have known that pickleball was gonna grow in Vietnam the way it's doing a couple of years ago, right? And Tony, Luis are building this amazing platform right now, getting everyone together and everyone on the same space. This partnership is helping us be here, right? That's why we're here today with you talking. So, make sure you take care of your peers and your peers will take care of you.
Yeah, we can't emphasize enough about really finding your core focus and then finding partners for your adjacent areas in your business to really work with and really scale your businesses. It's been very critical to our growth, and we hope it's been critical for DUPR's growth and stuff as well.
Definitely.
From the tech standpoint, what exciting innovation is Reclub working on right now?
So one of the things that we really care about is sort of the sports journey of the player, and that also includes non-athletes. So we're always thinking about where are you on your sports journey, and then how can we help you become a better athlete in the future. That's going to involve a little bit of AI, and that's all I can say about it right now.
And how about you, Brad?
AI everywhere. No. For us right now, again, we're on the critical spot of figuring out. We're adding as a premium membership, right? We want to keep the current experience free, but we also want to be able to add more analytics, more information, everything else. Again, our situation in the pickleball space is that we are more of a utility, right? It's more about how can we empower our partners more, right? We consider ourselves a B2B2C kind of organization, right? So we want to power the Reclubs of the world to make sure that we get the customer, and then we do that. So supporting the innovators, that's kind of our main technology advancement, right? And that's the kind of forward.
So pickleball is booming nowadays, especially in Asia. How are you preparing Reclub to scale worldwide?
So it's an incredible technical challenge, but what was really important for us is knowing that we're going to be global from the start, that the success criteria of the company is global. If we had just a narrow mindset, we're going to start with this country, bounce to this country, bounce to this country, I don't think we would have been successful. But having that global mindset from the start is really critical, because the way they play pickleball here in Vietnam, the way they play pickleball in Malaysia, in the US, it's all very different. If you were to build your platform a very country-specific perspective, you would never be able to go to the other countries. For a case and example, there's another one of our competitors. They built the app sort of similar to us, but in the onboarding process, they asked you for your Vietnam tennis rating for a pickleball app. And so I was just like, how does someone in the US do this? They go through that onboarding flow, they're like, what is a Vietnam tennis rating and how do I get one? So I knew from then and there that I didn't have to worry about these guys because they're so limited in their thinking. I think my advice for all entrepreneurs, if you want to build something impactful, something really meaningful, you gotta go global. You gotta think globally. You gotta connect with all the people, all the expats here, really understand what it means to be global and start from there. If your ambition is to build a big company and have a large impact on the world, you gotta think global from the first. from the get-go. It influences everything from your product vision, how you design your product, all the way to your technical architecture. It influences so much, and so the sooner that you can start thinking global, thinking about distribution and how to scale, the better.
And how about the board? How do you plan to attract more countries to adopt the platform?
Yeah, at the end of the day, solving the same issue, right? One of the big quotes that I like, and I'm gonna mess it up, is what's the best sales strategy is to solve an issue that the consumer has, right? So we're seeing this happen everywhere where Pickleball is growing, right? We're seeing the same concerns, the same issues, level base. Again, the other great thing is, we are an American-based company, right? The Pickleball is American, right? So connecting everyone globally to the rating, to the leagues, it's fantastic. Right now we own and operate the college tour, so we are like NCAA, so we run and operate that, right? So now we're able to create scholarship opportunities to players in Vietnam, the juniors that want to play in Harvard, right? They can go and play college pickleball in the US, and we run nationals, and we run all of those programs for that. Same thing with minor leagues, right? We have minor leagues growing all over the world, so that's kind of the stepping stone to be able to play into Major League Pickleball. That's all of the social stuff. So for us is keep building that globally in every single country, making sure that we get them connected to the mothership of Pickleball, which is the United States, and again, solving issues, right? We want to offer great experiences.
Yeah, building a product that's sticky is difficult, right? It takes a lot of time, and I think what we've done really well is, Tito here has been traveling the world for the past 3 years. You want to just name a couple countries you've been to?
Vietnam. I only love Vietnam.
Only knows Vietnam. But yeah, I think what we've done really well is market research. You do need to spend the time to talk to the club owners and the partners in each market. It takes time, and both Tito and I, we talk to so many clubs, right? Probably the most amount of clubs we have. We've been talking to clubs for the past 10 years. Coming from our previous experience at UTR as well. So yeah, I would say market research, invest the time. You're not too high on the pyramid to have these conversations. So I would encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we're here, right? Like, it's been the issues that people are having here, the organizers, the clubs. Sandbagging, right? And the kind of the things that are happening here are not the same things that are happening in the US. It also comes to the cultural aspect of everything, right? Like, different cultures have a way of operating, about ratings, about competition, about competitiveness, right? So being here, understanding, listening, hearing people out, that's so critical for us to know what to build and how to grow here. So this trip for us, seeing the peak of growth in Asia, coming here and getting to know so many people is absolutely critical to be able to know where do we go from here.
Okay, I think we will come up with the final list of questions. What one important lesson you would share with young founders or global tech entrepreneurs?
I think the hardest thing for me to learn, and something I'm still learning how to do as an entrepreneur, is how to say no. Really, there's so much opportunity in this space and so much to do. I get partners reach out to me every single day, and the hardest thing for me to do is say no. But we have to maintain focus, figure out what our core is, and not be distracted. And really one of the things that I encountered, that I ran into the wall as a founder, is I only have 24 hours in a day. And that's it. If I say yes to too much stuff, I'm going to do all these things poorly. So one of the biggest skill set that I'm learning right now and in my journey as an entrepreneur is learning how to say no. It's something that we all have to learn as entrepreneurs, a critical skill set.
If you could change one thing in the world of sport through technology, what would it be?
It's about making sports more accessible, because we're humans and the world is better with sports. It helps us in so many ways, physiologically, mentally, and that kind of stuff, and we need to spread the gospel of sport. So if there's any way that technology can help make sports more accessible, that's what we should be aiming for. Netflix has already done it. It makes it so easy for us to be in our jammies with a bag of chips, watching and choose a TV show. We need to do the same for sports. That's what Reclub is trying to do. Make it easy to find a game. You're busy from work, you're ending work, and you're like, oh, I want to go play pickleball. It should be easy like that. Helping people become more healthy, that's our mission.
And I think this is the final one. Is there any message you want to say with the Vietnamese crowd or Pickleball community today?
Yeah, I mean, that we're gonna be more and more involved, right? We wanna, we wanna connect Vietnam. Everyone in the U.S., by the way, is talking about Vietnam pickleball right now, right? It's a market that is making a lot of noise, and I think there's a lot of top talent that is gonna come, and how can we be that connective tissue, right? For the college players, for the clubs, for everyone else, but it's keep it healthy. I think that's the one thing I would make sure that you're sharing practices, make sure you're growing, make sure the clubs are working with each other. This is an ecosystem, right? And we want to make sure we grow it together, because if we keep growing it like the way it is, we have a unicorn. Everyone in their own things, but it's crazy to say that pickleball, DUPR itself, could be a unicorn, being such a niche sport. When I talk to some of the biggest investors that we have, which are global investors in major industries, they're like, hey, this is a potentially billion-dollar idea if we do this right? So, but that's also up to you guys to build a healthy community that in 5 years we're not all burn out and like, I don't want to hear about people anymore. But it's about building the infrastructure and structure globally.
Yeah, I think the Vietnam pickleball community, you guys have started off on the right foot. Like you've crushed this up to this point, and now I think it's another kind of key moment, right? How do we take this to the next level? And I really think it's about you guys all working together, not competing with one another, monopolizing or kind of reducing your prices to get more market share. Like all of that is super important. So just continue to work together, and we're here to support.
Thank you all of you for the answering. Very nice of you, very inspiring. And I think that we will come up with a Q&A session before come up this session. Would you like to?
Yeah, I'd like to invite Eddie. Eddie, where are you? So Eddie is the founder of Workflow here. Has been a big supporter of pickleball. And you want to come up, say a couple of words, Eddie?
It's okay. I listen.
Okay. But Eddie's really interesting because Eddie's going to start the first sort of like corporate pickleball club. So that means, hey, they got a membership base here, and they want to bring their members closer together beyond just work and stuff. And pickleball is a really great way to do that. So we're working together with Eddie right now to kind of figure out what that looks like, and to really, how do you bring a community together within a company, within a business. So it's very exciting. So thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie. Okay, now we will spend the next 15 minutes for Q&A session. And now we have a list of conversation form. So in the first question to Tony, do you plan to keep the art privately held or consider external investment?
External investment is definitely something on our road ahead. It's just a matter of timing. It's a matter of, hey, is that the right time and the right place and stuff right now? Have we figured out enough of the market and how to grow this? Do we have a repeatable strategy? Because like capital, external capital is really kind of like rocket fuel. So for us, it's about aiming first and then launching. So for us, it's like, do we feel confident that this is the right direction? If we're going to deploy somebody else's capital, external investment, or are we going to really deploy it in the right direction? So yes, absolutely, external investment is something that we're considering, but it's just a matter of timing, the right time.
The next question is, when is the next UI revamp for Reclub?
It's coming to, we're always trying to figure out ways to make it better. We've been getting, our latest change, I don't know if you've seen, has been on the Discover screen, making it easier for you to find games and stuff. We get feedback from Indonesia, from the US, from Malaysia. It takes time to collect this global feedback, but once we get it, we iterate and we always improve it. There's a lot of big changes coming, and it's all for improving your sports experience.
And this next question is for DUPR. Ever talk expanding the DUPR rating to other sport, even in only team sport?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, mostly racket sports, right? Like, we've discussed paddle, which is also making, big strides, and so many others. Again, at the end of the day, it's about focus, right? We have enough work right now with pickleball, we think about it, but, we want to keep focused, make sure that we do this, we own this, we monetize this, and then we can go into looking at other sports.
So another question: in what ways is the Vietnamese pickleball market different from the global market?
Yeah, I mean, every single market in pickleball right now is completely different, and that's because it's born from a completely different experience, right? In the US, right, it started from COVID, the pandemic, and pickleball was the only thing you could do, and you would go to a park, random park, you'll go and there will be like hundreds of people just playing, so it was a way to create, community during the pandemic. When it comes to Vietnam, we're seeing, and this is something that I'm hearing a lot being here, is, we have a lot of people from, I'm actually going to steal this from you, Tony, so giving you credit. But, it's a big racket sports community, right? People play badminton, play tennis, play so many other racket sports, and, I'm a former tennis player myself, but I'm seeing a lot of conversion, right? A lot of people who used to play racket sports and now, they're finding pickleball a new place to be able to play a sport, new community, have fun, and engage. And again, like everywhere else, right? I think that when you're an adult and you work and you do so many different things, right? It's difficult to make new friends, right? Pickleball is opening the door to clubs where people can come, feel comfortable, meet other-minded people and have fun. So, I think Vietnam has a little bit of that, like the US has in the social space, and also I think there's kind of like a hotbed for people from so many racket sports finding pickleball and finding a new hobby.
Can I add to that too a little bit? Sure. So like one of the things that it was really the global question earlier, it was so critical for us to find good partners like DUPR, because Tito and I chatted for an whole hour before this today, and we're just talking about what are you seeing in the US? How does the market look like that? And I'm explaining, hey, this is what's happening in Vietnam and Asia. When you have good partners that share the same values and the same goals, you guys can trade notes and scale up together. We've seen so many differences in the way people play in the US. It's all public infrastructure, public facilities show up and play. Vietnam, it's all private infrastructure. In Singapore, it's all government infrastructure. Malaysia is starting to develop a little bit kind of like Vietnam with a lot of private. They're all different, and the way they play is different. The way consumer purchases stuff is different. Asia traditionally has always been like, it's a social buying experience. I buy this or I consume this because my friends do it. In the States, it's very much like an individual experience, right, Tito? It's just like, I play pickleball because I love pickleball, and that's my thing. That's me as an individual. In Asia, it's different. So it was really critical for us, and being global platforms, to have good partners and to kind of learn from each other and share notes and how we can be successful together.
And I got the last question from Chris. Is asked how platforms like Reclub or DUPR can better support community first, nomadic pickleball club, and how to measure role engagement and culture beyond just sport activity.
Yeah, so actually one of the things Tony and I were talking before is about programming, right? It's about, we talk to 7,000 clubs globally right now, right? We see what's working, what's not working. We're starting to see some clubs closing in the US because, they were more focused on the real estate, which is time and space, right? How do I sell this court? How do I get people to this court? How do I rent it? One of the big things that we're seeing is programming, right? How can we look at a club partner, and how can we share all of the things that are working globally, right? What are they working locally, and truly start building that programming, building experiences, right? If you have a club, if you are in the in this business, you're not only offering pickleball, you're offering an experience. It's about the beer afterwards, about the coffee, it's about the experience. It's also, again, all of this is extremely important. The other big thing is connecting, right? We are the biggest database in the sport, right? So how can we get all of the players to use Reclub, to be able to play games, to come to the club, all of this different connectivity, right? When to play, where to play, all of these things, making it accessible is absolutely critical. So partnerships like DUPR and Reclub, we can help with that, right? To the clubs, making sure that you build that program and make sure that everyone knows what's going on, and as I said before, offering meaningful experiences.
Yeah, just to dive in a little deeper on the programming, like have programming for your 2-5s, 3-0s, 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 3-5s, and so on, right? I think that's what we're noticing in the US especially, and when you have catered programming for each level, people have more fun, it's more competitive, it's more engaging, and that's how you keep people engaged and staying in the sport, right? You have to understand we're competing with other sports as well, right? So making sure we do the right things for the players is critical.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I can add to this a little bit. You know, Reclub has really kind of empowered this kind of like new category of gig workers. You know, these people that have full-time jobs and in the evenings they're organizing games and they're earning healthy profit margins on these, about 30-40%. They rent for a long time, maybe on a monthly basis or something like that, and they just organize on top. They earn about 30-40%. It's an extra great way to earn some side income, and it's I feel very privileged and blessed because, you know, in a way, you know, my company, our platform is helping to create jobs, create more job opportunities and stuff, and it feels very rewarding to be able to build something like that.
And we also have some few minutes to ask more questions if you want to.
Hi everyone. So, hey guys, Luis, community guy from the team. Just want to say thank you to all the founders for being here today. Something you shared in Malaysia I think would be beneficial for the team. You shared some exciting updates to the algorithm, something that's coming in the meantime. I think these guys would love to know a little bit about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're adding, you know, we're changing our algorithm quite a bit here in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. So for all of you, you know, that don't know the background, early on at DUPR we had a very dynamic algorithm. We had a modified ELO algorithm. I know it sounds fancy, I don't know anything about data myself, but we have very smart people behind it, trust me. But you know, one of the big things that we had with this algorithm is that it was extremely dynamic. Okay, so every point counted. It wasn't about winning and losing. It was a new community, so the rating, you know, will fluctuate alone. It had its own life. Okay, so the big issue that we had with that fluctuation is that people were getting upset because the more data that we were adding, it was self-calibrating, right? Because the more data, we're learning more. So people have a lot of pride in the rating. Right? So if I wake up and I'm a 4, I go to sleep and I'm a 4.5, and I wake up and I'm a 4.1, DUPR is not gonna be my friend, right? So now that truly happened at the beginning. Again, you're adding more data. Now we feel like we're at a point to be able to go back to the true essence of DUPR, which is a dynamic algorithm that is point-based and not win and loss, right? The way that this is gonna work is like, if I just put this example, but like, let's say me and Kevin go and play together, right? I'm gonna be nice now. Kevin, Kevin is supposed to beat me 11-5, 11-5, right? If I go and play and the score is 11-6, 11-6, I overperformed. I beat the prediction of the algorithm. I did better than I'm supposed to, so I'm proving that I'm better than I'm supposed to be, right? So it's not about winning or losing, it's about the point spread. That's coming back into the algorithm. That's gonna be very critical because we get way more information about a point spread than a win or loss. Now we had to do it like that because again, you know, we're talking about entrepreneurs as well, right? You need to pivot, you need to adapt to the market. There were people that were playing a full tournament and the rating will go down because they underperformed. Even though they won, they underperformed. So, you know, at that time, my phone was everywhere. So I would get a phone call on a Sunday night, like, F you, Tito. So we completely changed that. Now, in July, we're going back to the algo. It's going to be point-based, and then we're adding the concept of connectivity. The concept of connectivity is extremely important. You know, this is the network effect, right? Everyone in the world who is connected to our algorithm is going to calibrate. So if one of you plays with someone in the US, now you're going to be on the same kind of pattern. We're going to be able to get all of that information. It's going to connect all of us and put us all under the same rating. So a 4.0 in Ho Chi Minh is going to be the same as a 4.0 in the United States. And that's extremely important to be able to have a language and unique kind of metric.
I am glad I'm not building a rating system. That sounds really complicated.
I have no idea what I just said. I just memorized that.
Anyone?
From BSC, we work with. We've been working with Reclub to host volleyball here in Vietnam. Now, back on your point about like specializing and narrowing your focus, if you guys are so focused on pickleball, do you ever see yourself expanding to other sports? Like for us, we're focusing on volleyball in Vietnam, and for like Western countries, they have their own rating systems, score engines, etc. Now, if you guys are so specialized, how would you guys be able to kind of like implement this across other sports? And we actually really need it here.
Yeah. So the reality, and this is something that I always mention to everyone in the space. I mean, what we do is not that special, okay? And let me be very clear about that. Anyone in the world can go. You can hire an amazing data scientist, and they can build an amazing algorithm, right? And that's the world nowadays is built on algorithms, and so many people can come. Now, the most important thing of anything that you build when it comes to data is the actual data and how to access those data. Right? We're not an event management platform, but if there is an event management platform that has a history of matches and stuff like that, hey, we can throw that to our engine, right? Obviously, we need someone from the volleyball space that actually understand the I'm missing the word, but the little things that differentiate volleyball, which we don't understand, right? Like, hey, how is the sport play, and how can we adapt, and how is all of that stuff? But the access to the data is so important because, again, our algorithm, as I said, right? We had someone very smart create it. If we didn't have matches, it wouldn't mean anything. It could be the best mathematical equation ever. But with the access to data, we can nurture that algorithm and give it. So with that access, we can plug and play and change the algorithm to certain things and create it. Again, that all requires funding, time, money, engineers, data scientists, which it has to be a return on that to be able to do that. And with the right group, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, and just to give an idea, like we have 6 million match results in DUPR right now. We're getting about 250,000 match results into DUPR per month. So, I think even till today, we're trying to get more and more match results. Anytime there's a match played, let's get into DUPR. So, if for volleyball, I mean that would be kind of the first start. Right? How do we get as many matches from volleyball and potentially do something with it?
For your specific applications, when you guys first started with, obviously no users, you have to outreach, get users. What was, if you could describe the tipping point where you guys started to have like word of mouth, where it's growing, without much effort? Obviously, you guys still do outreach, especially for other countries. What did it take to get to that tipping point?
So the thing that Reclub focused on first is retention. So we have a retention metric, and we watch that thing like crazy. We make sure the retention is high, because that means that we're building something right. In fact, Reclub's, our CAC is 0. We don't invest. We don't have a marketing department. We don't do any outreach. We got so much inbound that we can barely keep up. This is going to change in the next year as we scale out our team and invest more in marketing, but it's really about that retention metric at the very beginning. Are people coming back to your app? Are they using it? And really, really understanding the user. This is also coming back to the investment question. It's like, hey, what is the right timing to get investment dollars? And the right time is when your retention metric is at a certain point where you feel like any kind of money you deploy into growth is not going to be wasted. It's not a leaky bucket. And so at the very beginning, you just got to watch those retention numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give you a very basic answer, right? When you're building a startup, the grit and tenacity aspect of it is absolutely critical. I mean, I'm a true believer on that. I mean, day one at DUPR, I just, was able to Google every single facility around the country, and I literally sat down and dialed myself. Like, everything sounds so good now, DUPR, the growth, like CEO, like amazing, everything looks very fancy and nice. This was me with a spreadsheet, calling one by one, leaving messages day after day after day after day, until I was able to land a couple of critical movers and shakers that moved the market, right? Hey, one of the big moments for us was we closed Lifetime. Lifetime was a massive multi-club gym in the United States, so we made that announcement. The other big thing is that we were making sure that every single one of these wins, plays, were over-communicated, right? We started creating this atmosphere of FOMO. Lifetime has it, then suddenly the class next door really wants to be part of it, and then it's a domino effect, right? So, but great, get those first partners, make sure that people know that this is happening, new industry, keep growing, keep going to the club next door, and suddenly it turned into, me being the most annoying guy in the world, to me having the tough, being extremely difficult to get on my calendar because the inbound was so crazy and I'm dealing with too many clubs. So that's the key point, right? When you close those key partners and make sure you let everyone know that you're closing them, and then the people will start coming to you.
Yeah, so Tito showed the vision. I mean, he's amazing at doing that, and then kind of the next piece of that is the execution, right? Can you execute on the vision that's being sold? And I think, you mentioned the tipping point. I think that was it, right? What Tito was saying is the vision that Lifetime bought and other clubs have bought in, we've executed on it, right? And it took a whole team effort to do that.
It's a very messy journey. It's never like this. It's gonna be more like this.
For sure. And it's about not giving up, right? It's about any businesses you're building, and I, obsessed with this concept is like, success is measured on grid. Usually most of the time is, how many times you fail until you finally hit the piece that really hit, and that can take 1 month, that can take years. If you're going into this, it's not about having the short attention span and be like, hey, it doesn't work in 90 days. If that's your mentality, if you're changing from idea to idea, none of them are gonna be successful, right? I knew that I was in this, and I was gonna make this work, and it was gonna happen. So, we didn't stop until we didn't make it happen.
And we're really lucky because we're in the sports industry, and sports is known for having strong grit to be successful in sports. So the fact that you guys are part of the pickleball community, interested in stuff, that's already a really great accelerant as far as developing the mental side of stuff for you. You go out, you have a bad game, pick yourself up, and then you get another game and you train and get better. That's just the same process, and then you start from.
I think one more last question.
Hi. The last question I have is for both Tony and the DUPR CEO and COO. My question is, do you guys track first batch to rated player conversions? I know you love Vietnam, you've been saying it, but I just want to know if you keep track of that number, what are other regions besides Vietnam that you see that have good growth rate in terms of pickleball or using your system?
Yeah. So Malaysia has been an absolute boom. It's exploded. One of the realities that in the Asia market, Vietnam was the fastest growing market that we had. But then suddenly a couple months ago, Malaysia started it went from 0 to 100 in a very few months. So we started seeing our number of new users grow incrementally. We're like, where are these users coming from? How are we getting so many? We were growing, but and we started tracking, and we started seeing a lot of that was coming from Malaysia in a very short period of time. China is another market that is growing quite a bit, and we're figuring out exactly how to work that out as well, because technology, servers, and stuff like that, it's a little more complicated, but it's a market that is growing extremely. And honestly, I would say that the main markets right now where we're seeing that are Vietnam, Malaysia, China are the markets that we're seeing massive growth, and you can see that. With the people who are coming. Andre Agassi is one of our main investors. He was just here, right? All of the brands are having this conversation. I think in terms of critical mass and future and potential, it's very well known for the US companies like us that Vietnam is the market to see, and that's a fact.
So basically, it's to sum up, it's China, Malaysia, and Vietnam.
Yeah, those are the three markets. Malaysia, Vietnam has been for a little bit now the one that we'll be seeing growth. Malaysia just had something, I don't know what happened there. People just woke up one day and everyone is playing pickleball. And then China, yes, China we're seeing that growth, yeah.
So the last questions for you guys up on the stage is, let's say in the next 3 years, if you have a competitor enter the market for DUPR or for Reclub, what are some of the best features in your company that they will not be able to compete at all?
Network effect. It's the data.
For us, it's going to be very tough for anyone to compete because we are 6 million matches ahead and 200,000 a month, right? So, we see a lot of our current competitors starting to disappear. We had a couple of people in the market that came in, wanted to try. we're so far ahead in that regard that it's gonna be very tough to do that, you know. And ratings is pretty unique because I think you can have platforms for many things, but speaking different languages make things complicated, right? So I think people, you know, can get pesos super, sandbagging, and all, but everyone wants to understand one language when it comes to pickleball, and I think that's something that we've done very well. So the data, right? How do you catch up to the data? Yeah.
There's also, you know, Asia in general, and Vietnam, from what I remember, they like to take some models that work out in Western countries or in other places and then try to bring it to Vietnam. But the problem with that strategy is you lack the history. You lack the history of what worked and what didn't work and that kind of stuff. And every founder, when they're building something, they have to go through that journey of, oh, this worked and that didn't work, you know. You just have to put in the time for it. You know, sure, you can learn some things or whatever kind of stuff, but still that history is incredibly important. And then in this specific context for us too, it's about building a good habit for sports. How do you make sports for us and for Reclub? We're always asked the question, how can we make sports a habit? How can we make it part of your daily life and your daily routine? And then once people feel like Reclub helps me and supports me in my daily routine for sports and stuff, that's how we retain, you know, having that focus on building a good, healthy habit.
So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys.